Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. It's Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. And coming up on today's show, more Josh Jacobs drama. I'll tell you why the running back is a little bit upset right now. Hunter Renfrow trade prediction from a Raiders beat reporter. Find out who said that the Raiders will be moving on from him. O.J. Howard, is he going to get cut? And then is Netane Muti also on the chopping block? Here's one thing. I can't give you all the news and rumors. You never know what this team's going to do. But if there is one thing I can promise you, it's this. You're going to know more about the Raiders by subscribing to the Raiders Report than you've ever had before. We keep you up to date on everything going on around this team. Plus, if you're looking for extra analysis, we do that. So take a second, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because if there's one thing I can promise you, we're going to bring that commitment to excellence. And if there's another thing that I can promise you, it's drama around this team, as always. So here's what happened today, and it's probably the biggest story circulating right now around the silver and black. Raiders star running back Josh Jacobs tweeted at 2:19 p.m., just bad business. And if there is one thing that Josh has mastered, it is a cryptic tweet or two. And if everybody out there, I said it's no secret, Josh wants to get paid, and he 100% deserves to get his money. The question is, how much money is that? But Josh is, been very vocal. He wants to get paid. And when you go and you look at his last few tweets, his last few things that he has liked on Twitter, look at his most recent like. This is from Jim Trotter of the NFL. The NFL is the only major professional sports league where salaries are tied to position groups, which often means you will be underpaid despite overproducing. Right? At Josh Jacobs. Then Josh, all the way back on June 10th, said, sometimes it's not about you. We got to do it for the ones after us. Talking about, if he's got to do what he's got to do this offseason to make sure that running backs get paid down the road, then that's going to happen. Obviously, that makes Raider Nation freak out a little bit because your star running back who led the NFL with 1,653 rushing yards, over 2,000 total yards last season, what does that mean for him necessarily? It means that he wants to get paid, and he's not afraid to show his frustrations, and I understand that from a standpoint of a business, right? If I'm at a job, and I feel like I'm doing my job very well, and I know I'm doing my job very well, and I'm like, well, shit, I am drastically getting underpaid, there's going to be some frustrations with that. The problem is, in the NFL, if you're paying this much for that job and you want more because you think that you deserve more, but this is the going rate. This is the problem that the NFL has, and this is the problem that Josh Jacobs is going to be dealing with. All I want to do is this, though, because with the ups and downs with this team, I believe deep down, every single Raider fan wants Jacobs on this roster, and there's going to be a lot of frustrations, there's no doubt about it. But I want Josh to know that the nation has his back. Does everyone believe that he deserves to get paid? Yes. Do I want him to play on the franchise tag? Yes, that's probably better for the Raiders. But I also want him to know that the nation's got his back. So if you could do me a big favor, spam JJ right now down in the comments. Let's get into some more rumors here on today's show. Hunter Renfrow. He is going to be traded. I've been saying 4 just win babies. I've been saying 3 just win babies. Well, it's almost the end of June, so I'm going to give this one 2 just win babies, and I'm going to say that people are talking it's a 50-50 shot that number 13 ends up getting dealt come the start of the regular season here. And there's nothing really new out there in terms of Hunter Renfrow, but I did see that Vic Tafur of The Athletic say in a recent article that he believes the Raiders will trade Renfrow. In a recent article where him and Tashawn Reed get into the 53-man roster projection for the Silver and Black, guess what? Tafur doesn't have Renfrow on it, and it literally says that he believes the Raiders end up trading Renfrow. We know the latest reports are that the Raiders haven't received any calls about Hunter. The Raiders drafted Trey Tucker. They went out and signed DeAndre Carter. They can move on from him. However, The Athletic also hints at cutting him if not traded. And the exact quote is, no way they cut him like Carr, right? Personally, I think even to put this out there in an article, and there's some sarcasm when you read it. However, people are going to look at that and think that that it's actually a possibility that the Raiders are going to cut Renfrow. If they do, it just means Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler have their heads so far up there, you know what, that they're not paying attention. Because when you look at Renfrow's contract, it makes no sense to cut him. If they were to cut Renfrow, they would eat $12.7 million, and they would save $470K. Why on earth would you cut him? It makes no sense. If you can't trade him, he's on your team. But if you trade him, you save $11.3 million, which is the intriguing factor in all this. Imagine a world where you could trade away Renfrow, use that 11.3 and go make Josh Jacobs a happy man. I don't know. If that's the way that I got to do it, then it's the route that I'm going to go. But that also being said, the Raiders aren't just going to trade away Renfrow for nothing. Like, yeah, you're probably only going to get a round 5 pick as it stands right now, which kind of sucks considering the fact that he had 103 grabs in 2021, over 1,000 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. But last season, he did struggle a little bit in the Josh McDaniels system. I'll also admit that McDaniels struggled to get Renfrow involved, and it didn't help when you had Derek Carr playing at a below-average level. But if the other reason why I am okay with the Raiders moving on from Renfrow, it's because of the depth that they already have here. Wide receiver is arguably this team's deepest spot. And if they're going to keep 6 wide receivers, which is what Vic Tafur believes, which is what The Athletic believes, and it's something that I have continued and said, it only makes sense for this team to keep 6 wide receivers, and for Renfrow to be that 4th, 5th option in this offense, making $13 million, you can save 11.3 by trading him. I do think that the smart thing for this organization to do is to find a partner that is willing to take on Renfrow's contract and end up making the deal happen. Coming up next here on the show, will the Las Vegas Raiders cut O.J. Howard? They signed the tight end during NFL free agency, but find out who thinks that, yeah, he's not going to make this team. Now, if there's also one thing, I lied earlier, I should say that. I promised that I have awesome content, which we do, but I also said that I can't predict a lot of things. If there's one thing I can predict, it's that Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs fans, they all eat corn the long way. And if you want to get your hands on Corn the Long Way shirts, go to chatsports.com/corn. That link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments and in the description of today's show. I'll also admit there has been way more Chiefs fans Eat Corn the Long Way shirts purchased than Broncos and Chargers. Right now, Chiefs is in first place. Broncos and Chargers is tied for second. So if you're like, no, we got to get those Broncos numbers up, that's who we're playing Monday Night Football, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's FKC, it's FLAC, and FSAM and FDEN. Get your chatsports.com/corn shirts, or you probably eat corn the long way. Spam FSAM. All right, let's talk about O.J. Howard now. And is he going to end up getting cut by McDaniels, by Dave Ziegler? I'm going to give this one just win, baby, which means it's a small shred of truth, less than 25% chance of it happening. Vic Tafur, in a recent article about the Raiders' 53-man roster, predicted the Raiders to end up cutting Howard. And I thought it was interesting because, yes, Las Vegas signed him this offseason, but Tafur believes that the Raiders are going to keep Jesper Horsted over Howard. And the logic for which Tafur gives, I understand, because this Raiders team is so much about relationships, so much about connections, and Horsted has that connection with, obviously, this organization because he played on the team last season, but on top of that, has the relationship with Champ Kelly when he was with the Chicago Bears back in 2021. Champ Kelly is the Raiders' assistant general manager, and as it stands right now, this is the Raiders tight end group. You know, Austin Hooper and Michael Mayer are locks. Besides that, there are a lot of unknowns. Do you keep O.J. Howard? Do you bring back Jesper Horsted? Do you roll the Cole Fotheringham? Or do you go with the UDFA out of Auburn, Schnedker? I mean, no disrespect to Fotheringham and Schnedker. It's not really between them. It's a race between Howard, and it's a race between Horsted. From a career standpoint, when he was first coming out of Alabama, I really thought O.J. Howard was going to be one of the best tight end prospects that we've seen in a long time. For a man to be that big, to be able to run the way that he did and not afraid to block, it's really, really unfortunate that all the injuries happened to him because I really did. I loved O.J. Howard coming out of Alabama. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's just the injuries continue to pile and pile on. Last season, he was able to play in 13 games, started in 10, and in terms of the games missed, they have added up, but he's played with Buffalo, he's played with Houston, he's got that connection with Nick Caserio. But at the end of the day, the Raiders Report is a show based on getting the views and opinions of the nation. So if you could only keep one, who would you keep? Would you keep Jesper Horsted? Type JH. If you're like, nah, I got to get my OJ in today. Hopefully it's not in a white Bronco. Type OJ down below. If you could only keep one, let me know. For me personally, the tight end that I would end up keeping, it is OJ Howard. And it's more based on, if I'm looking for a tight end 3, Howard is better fitting for what the tight end 3 role needs to be. Horsted is undersized and more built to be a wide receiver. In fact, that's what he was when he first came into the NFL, wide receiver. The Raiders are good in the wide receiver department. And in terms of the better blocker, Howard's the better blocker. That's what I'm looking for at my tight end 3 for this season. All right, next story coming up here on the show is Netane Muti expected to make the roster. Y'all that have watched this show before know what my stance on Moody is. However, The Athletic is really out on Netane Muti. Before I get into this story here, though, remember, the month of June, we're giving shout-outs to all the new subs. So shout-out to Dre Locke, Israel Wilson, Tuna Forearm to Baymane, Kept 169, and Alex. I know y'all hit that subscribe button, but if you could do me a really big favor, take that link that you see below, youtube.com/RaidersReport. Set it to some Raider fans. Let's keep growing the family here on today's show. All right, let's go to Netane Muti. Not going to make the 53-man roster. Just like I talked about OJ Howard, this one's also going to be just one win, baby. 25% chance and less. Like, I don't think it's intelligent for the Raiders to move on from Netane Muti. Then again, that doesn't mean that they necessarily won't do it. But the Athletic projected Muti to be released. Both Tashawn Reed and both Vic Tafur said that he's not going to end up making the roster. The only way that I see this being a possibility is if the Raiders do the similar playbook that they did last offseason with Lester Cotton, where Lester Cotton's getting a lot of those first-team reps at right guard and then doesn't end up making the 53-man. However, I've heard by sources that Netane Muti right now is battling for that legitimate starting right guard spot, and on top of that, they like his versatility, being able to play left guard, being able to play right guard. So to me, Muti is going to make the roster, and not only that, he has a legitimate shot to start at right guard. But this is what the Athletic had to say in their 53-man roster projection article. The Raiders brought back the starting offensive line that closed out last season, but it's still worth watching the right side of the unit. Munford and Parker could push Eluemunor for the starting job at right tackle, and if Eluemunor loses out, he could be replaced by Bars at right guard. The competition should carry on through training camp. There's going to be a lot of competition at a lot of spots here, and right tackle is still going to be one. Though, Jermaine Eluemunor, from everything I hear, has got a very, very far lead in terms of the right tackle. But I don't know why the Athletic keeps pushing this narrative that Bars is the starting right guard. Like, I saw Tashawn Reed doing it. I now see Vic Tafur doing it. He's not the starting right guard. I mean, I've heard from multiple very reliable sources that he's not. Like, they went out, they got Greg Van Roten. Dylan Parham's going to be there at left guard. So, Bars is going to be a backup player. That's what he is. Is he going to make this team? Yeah, I'm pretty confident he does end up making the 53, but I can't wrap my mind around why the Athletic keeps pushing Bars as a starting right guard when he's just simply not as it stands right now. All right, so here's my question. Give me a Y for yes, or I want you to type your N for no. Will Netane Muti make the Raiders' final 53-man? I am going to type my Y for yes. However, based on what the Athletic is reporting, based on maybe what some of y'all hear and see out there, what is your personal opinion on Muti making this 53? The other reason why I'm going to go with yes here is because if the Raiders keep 9 offensive linemen, he's one of the top 9 guys right now. You can make the argument that there's other players that maybe have higher upside. I can go with that. But in terms of what the Raiders are looking for right now, they want somebody that's tenacious. They want somebody that's got tenacity, that is a mean mother effer. And if they're going to put that dude in at right guard, Moody is exactly that, and he brings a lot of competitive nature, which is something that Carmen Bracillo desperately looks for. It's something that McDaniels and Ziegler look for. They want a guy that goes out there and gives you that competitiveness, practice, and especially on game day. And that's why Netane Muti was brought in last season. Now, if you all don't already know, you can find me on social media at MitchellRens365. I had a few people reach out to me for Father's Day as a gift idea on Cameo. If you got a birthday, if you want a shout out, that's probably the best source for that. Locals, we go live Monday and we go live Wednesday. We're going to be live Wednesday at It's going to be 5 p.m. Eastern time on Locals. I got something that I got to do with Alex, so that's why we'll be live there. But if you want more content, RaidersReport.locals.com. And before I wrap up the show, Chat Sports is going to be live for the NBA Draft. This is probably the most anticipated draft in quite some time. I'm not an NBA expert, but I do think Victor Wembanyama ends up going number 1 overall. If you want to tune in and watch our draft coverage last year, Chat Sports had 782,000 viewers for their draft coverage. You know why? We get the picks before you see them on TV. So go subscribe, youtube.com/@chatsports. The link's going to be available for you guys down in the comments. It's also going to be available for you down in the description. Tune in to our live NBA draft coverage here on Chat Sports.